Welcome to News Edge, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. The klaxon's shriek cut through the frigid Alaskan air, echoing across the snow-blanketed tarmac and jolting every airman and officer into action. The sound was unmistakable, a warning that something extraordinary and potentially dangerous was unfolding. At Elmendorf-Richardson Air Force Base, a sprawling fortress nestled on the edge of Anchorage, the routine of a winter evening was shattered. Floodlights flickered on, casting long shadows over the icy runways as personnel rushed to their stations. This wasn't a drill. Screens in the command center lit up with a single, shocking contact. The room, usually filled with the low hum of routine operations, now buzzed with urgent voices and the rapid tapping of keyboards. An unidentified transponderless aircraft had breached the air defense identification zone, heading deeper into U.S. airspace. The blip on the radar was moving fast, its intentions unclear, its silence ominous. Analysts scrambled, piecing together satellite data and intercepts. Every available resource was thrown at the mystery. Was this a malfunction, a lost civilian, or something far more deliberate? The aircraft's profile matched the Ilyushin Il-96-300 PU, Putin's plane. The realization sent a chill through the command center. This was no ordinary incursion. It was the Russian president's own aircraft, flying dark and unannounced. The question, why was it here, unannounced? Was this a diplomatic emergency, a defection, or a calculated show of force? NORAD's order was immediate: intercept, identify, escort. There was no room for error. Every protocol drilled over decades was now being put to the ultimate test. The highest levels of government watched as the blip moved closer to Alaska. In Washington, red phones lit up and advisors gathered in the Situation Room, their faces tense as they awaited updates. A foreign head of state, uninvited, was approaching U.S. territory. The implications were staggering. One wrong move could spark an international crisis. Was this a provocation, a test, or something worse? Theories flew around the room, but no one had answers. Only the certainty that the next few minutes would be critical. The command center's tension was palpable. Every eye was glued to the screens, every muscle taut with anticipation. Every second the aircraft drew nearer. The digital clock on the wall seemed to tick louder, marking the countdown to a possible confrontation. The base commander, a Cold War veteran, knew the response had to be flawless, fast, decisive, but precise. He'd seen tense moments before, but nothing quite like this. Only the best pilot and aircraft would do. The F-35, America's most advanced fighter, was readied for immediate launch, its systems checked and rechecked by ground crews working at breakneck speed. The call went out for Major Jack "Viper" Callahan, a pilot known for his nerves of steel and lightning-fast reflexes. He moved with purpose, aware that the eyes of the world were about to be on him. The fate of international stability now rested on a single intercept. The mission was simple in theory, but the stakes could not have been higher. The room held its breath. The mission was clear. Every person present knew that history was being written in real time. As the first rays of dawn broke over the Alaskan mountains, the F-35 roared into the sky. The world was about to change, and no one could predict what would happen next. Major Jack "Viper" Callahan was halfway through his morning coffee, savoring the brief calm before the storm, when the call came in. The base was quiet, the hum of distant jets barely audible, but in that instant, everything changed. Callahan was no ordinary pilot. He represented a new generation, calm under pressure, relentlessly focused, and a true master of the F-35 Lightning II. Years of training had honed his instincts to a razor's edge, and his reputation for precision was unmatched. Alaska's skies were unforgiving, a place where only the best survived. Blizzards, sub-zero temperatures, and unpredictable winds were daily challenges, but Callahan thrived in adversity. The harsher the conditions, the sharper his focus became. To him, the F-35 was more than a jet. It was a flying supercomputer, a technological marvel. He could process data from every sensor, every radar ping, and every threat, building a three-dimensional battle space in his mind with astonishing clarity. That's why they called him Viper: quick, precise, and deadly. His reflexes were legendary, his decision-making almost instantaneous. In the cockpit, he was a force of nature. The briefing was urgent. Putin's plane had entered their airspace right here, right now. The room was tense, every eye on the mission map, every officer aware of the stakes. This was more than a routine intercept, it was a global power play, a direct challenge to American resolve. The world was watching, and the consequences of failure were unthinkable. Callahan absorbed every detail: heading, speed, weather, possible contingencies. He visualized the intercept running through every scenario, every maneuver, every possible outcome. Even before he reached the jet, his mind was already in the cockpit, hands on the controls, eyes scanning the horizon, ready for whatever came next. The responsibility was immense. The weight of national security, the hopes of his squadron, and the eyes of the world all rested on his shoulders. But Callahan was ready. He had trained for this moment his entire life. He was the guardian at the gate, the last line of defense in a world on edge. Every mission mattered, but this one could change history. The world's peace might hinge on his next hour. Every decision, every maneuver, could tip the balance between conflict and calm. He nodded to the commander, a silent promise: "I'm on it." No hesitation, no doubt, just unwavering resolve. No more words were needed. The mission had begun, and Viper was already in the fight. The locker room was quiet, a sanctuary before the storm. Callahan suited up with practiced efficiency: G-suit, flight suit, gloves, helmet. His helmet was a marvel, projecting flight and targeting data onto his visor, letting him see through the jet itself. He wasn't just flying the F-35, he was becoming one with it. Outside, the Alaskan wind bit hard, but the ground crew worked with silent urgency. They prepped the Lightning II, fueling, arming, checking every detail. Their nods said everything. They trusted him. Climbing into the cockpit felt like coming home. The familiar hum of electronics, the glow of the HUD, he was in his element. Sealing the canopy, he entered a world of pure focus. One last breath, the storm was coming, he was ready. Viper 1, cleared for immediate takeoff, the tower crackled. Callahan slammed the throttle forward. The F-35 roared down the runway, leaping into the sky. He climbed nearly vertical, punching through sleet and cloud. The F-35's advanced controls made the ascent smooth even in chaos. Outside a maelstrom, inside perfect clarity. His helmet display cut through the storm. At 40,000 feet he broke into the stratosphere. The mission's urgency pulsed through him. Afterburner engaged, he broke the sound barrier, a thunderclap of American power. The hunt was on. There was no turning back. The distance to the target vanished at supersonic speed, the F-35 slicing through the upper atmosphere like a phantom. Every second the gap closed, the roar of the engines muffled by the cockpit's insulation, but the tension was palpable. Callahan could feel it in his bones. The F-35's advanced systems fed Callahan a constant stream of data: altitude, speed, flight path, and even the tiniest shifts in the air around him. Every flicker on the screen, every number, was a lifeline in this high-stakes encounter. He tracked the Russian jet's every move with precision, his sensors painting a clear picture of the adversary's position and intent. Meanwhile, the Russian pilot remained oblivious, flying blind to the American shadow tailing him. The rules of engagement echoed in his mind: do not fire unless fired upon, visually identify the target, and escort if necessary. Each protocol was a thread in the delicate fabric of international diplomacy, and one misstep could unravel everything. The stakes were enormous. One mistake, one misunderstood maneuver, could ignite an international crisis that would ripple across the globe. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Callahan's shoulders. As he approached, Callahan slowed the jet, using the swirling storm clouds as cover. The turbulence rattled the frame, but it also offered concealment, a cloak of nature in a sky full of eyes. Thanks to the F-35's stealth technology, he was nearly invisible on Russian radar. To them, he was a ghost, a whisper in the clouds, impossible to track or predict. This was psychological warfare at its finest, demonstrating American reach and capability without ever firing a shot. The message was clear: you are never alone in the sky. Callahan's heart pounded as he closed to visual range, adrenaline sharpening his senses. Every muscle was tense, every breath measured as he prepared for the critical moment of identification. No American pilot had ever intercepted a Russian president's plane in this way before. It was a moment that would be etched in history, even if the world never learned the full story. He checked his weapon systems, fingers hovering over the controls, always ready for the worst, but silently hoping that today, his arsenal would remain unused. The dance was about to begin, a high-stakes ballet in the clouds. Callahan knew he had to lead, to guide the encounter safely, with every move watched and measured. The world was watching, even if it didn't know it. In this silent, tense ballet above the earth, the fate of nations could hinge on a single decision, a single heartbeat. Callahan eased out of the clouds. There it was, the massive Il-96, Russian tricolor on its tail. He slid into formation just off the port wing, close but not threatening. Faces stared from the windows, shock, awe, maybe Putin himself. Callahan's movements were smooth, deliberate. "You are not welcome here." He switched to the International Guard frequency. "Unidentified aircraft, this is United States Air Force fighter. You have entered a U.S. Air Defense Identification Zone. Alter course and exit immediately." Silence. He repeated the message, still nothing. The silence was defiance. Time for a signal. He dipped his wings. "Follow me." He turned west, showing the way out. The next move was Russia's. The world held its breath. The message was clear, the standoff was real. The Russian jet held its course, ignoring Callahan's signal. Tension mounted. What if they refused? Callahan stayed steady, a silent shadow. Then, finally, the Ilyushin began to turn, following his lead. Relief, but the mission wasn't over. He escorted the jet through the ADIAs, ensuring no tricks. For 30 minutes they flew in tense formation, power and restraint side by side. Callahan scanned for threats, but the skies were empty. At the boundary, the Russian plane crossed out of U.S. airspace. Callahan held position, confirming the exit. Only when the jet was a distant speck did he allow himself a breath. He had enforced the line, without a shot. The message was received. The crisis had passed. Viper 1, bogey is clear of the zone. The command center's response was immediate. "Excellent work, return to base." Callahan turned for home, adrenaline fading to exhaustion and pride. He replayed the mission, the scramble, the intercept, the silent confrontation. It was the toughest flight of his life, a test of skill and nerve. The team had met an unprecedented challenge with strength and restraint. Landing at Elmendorf-Richardson, the storm was breaking, sunlight piercing the clouds. The ground crew greeted him with smiles and relief. The base commander shook his hand. "You made your country proud." In debrief, the weight of what they'd done sank in. No headlines, no celebration. Just the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. They had held the line. The nation was safe. The world never knew how close it came to crisis over the Bering Strait. Official statements were vague. The truth remained classified. Putin's flight was a test of American resolve in the Arctic. Callahan's response was the answer: stealth, speed, and professionalism. The F-35 proved it could appear from nowhere in any weather and hold any target at risk. This event reshaped the region's strategic calculus. It was deterrence in action strength used to prevent conflict, not start it. The most powerful weapon was restraint. Major Callahan's name wouldn't be in history books, but on that day, his steady hand kept the world safe. Sometimes peace is defended by the courage not to fire.